Hey everyone, welcome to an Ode To Birth podcast. My name is Madison and I'm your host for today. And I'm so excited to be here with the lovely Michelle Tyliakos. This woman is an absolute inspiration in the doula community and in helping us advocate for people in their reproductive rights. And so I'm just going to hand introduction over to you because you know yourself best.
Yeah. Thanks. Well, I'm Michelle Tyliakos and I am a doula. I'm a birth worker. I'm advocate. I'm a business owner, and I've opened up and facilitated loss groups around pregnancy loss. And I teach prenatal classes. I facilitate and am the founder of My Powerful Birth, which we really want people to feel like they have a choice in their birth process and that they felt heard and understood through the whole process, whether it's pregnancy, birth, or postpartum. So yeah, that's touching on me a little bit.
Oh, that's so amazing. And you are in this space of wanting to ensure that people are achieving the birth of their dreams. So what does that mean?
For me, a powerful birth means that it doesn't necessarily matter how your baby comes out. It's more that you felt that you had the power to choose and have the conversations in any given moment. And so what that requires is looking at physiological birth and what happens when nothing's added. So, a lot of the times with prenatal education, it's like, what happens when you get to the hospital, or what happens when somebody comes to your home. And it's not actually sharing what's possible for people. And a big mantra of my life is I'm not aiming for what's probable. I'm aiming for what's possible. And what's probable is going to a hospital. Yeah, these things are going to happen to you. And hiring different types of care providers. These are the things that are going to happen to you. But when we look at what's possible, then we get to look at the individual, unique beings that these people are that are having babies and bringing babies into the world. And they get to birth wherever they feel most comfortable and wherever they feel most safe. And sometimes it's having those challenging conversations before the birthing process so that you're clear on how your birth might be managed, how the people are going to show up for you, and what to expect from them in partnership with you as you're bringing your baby here. So it's not always about this most beautiful experience, because sometimes it's not, but it's in the process of finding out what matters to me, what are my values, and how are the people that I'm inviting into my space going to facilitate and recognize and help me achieve those values. And so many times we hear, oh, well, we'll just wait and see what happens in birth. It's unpredictable. And I'm going to assert that it's actually very predictable depending on who you've brought to your space. And so if you've hired a care provider that is a physician or an OBGYN, it's very predictable how your birth is going to go because that's what they manage, right? And if you're wanting a home birth or a birth that's undisturbed, or you're going for a natural birth, when you hire an OBGYN, it's not somebody who's aligned with that. So it's really about getting honest with yourself of what's, like, I haven't hired the right care provider. Mm-hmm. And so how do you navigate that then,
Well, and a lot of people would say that having their birth in the hospital is a form of a safety net, mm-hmm. because we know, they believe that birth is unpredictable, like you're saying. And so they want to have something in place should there be imminent danger to themselves or to their baby. Mm-hmm. And so they feel as though having these people within their field when they're birthing their babies is the safest thing, the most logical choice, right? But like you're saying, an obstetrician is trained in surgery, and they are the ones to facilitate completely managed birth, medically managed birth. So what would you say to people who are wanting more of a natural, physiological childbirth experience, yeah, but they want that safety net, that protection in the event of imminent danger?
Yeah. You're going to birth the best wherever you feel the most safest and with whoever is helping you with feeling safe, like where you're feeling comfortable. So physiological process of birth is, where am I increasing my oxytocin and reducing my adrenaline? And if you've got a lot of adrenaline going into the hospital, then that might not be the best place for you. But learning about when adrenaline might come up in the birthing process will help you understand how the birthing process can unfold. So for some people, going to the hospital really stresses them out. Or they might not even think it does stress them out, but then all of a sudden their labor slows down, or things start to, we hear, oh, things aren't moving as fast as possible. And so they feel like they need to introduce interventions to speed up labor. And when we can understand that our bodies are there to protect us, and if your labor slows down because there's a shot of adrenaline coming our way, it's how do we then reincorporate safety for the person who's giving birth? Because safety that's a whole other topic, but it's like safety's determined by the person who's needing to feel safe, not by stats or evidence. I'm not saying it's not valid. It's definitely valid, but we really want to create the safety for the person. And so entering the birthing process and feeling like adrenaline's really up there and you're stressed out and you're worried, or you had a vaginal exam that was really painful, or somebody walked into the room and startled you, is having you and anybody who's attending you, your partner, doula, any of the care providers, is like, how do we bring back the safety so that we can increase the oxytocin so that to get the process started again? And it's not necessarily something to fix, but it's just like, oh, I can see you're startled, or I can see that you're uncomfortable, or I see you feel unsafe here. What's it gonna take to have that reduced stress response, and bring in back of the understanding of what's physiologically happening here with our bodies.
So then it would be wise, as someone who is going into the birthing portal, to ensure that you know what is going to take you out of that fight or flight. Right?
Totally. And I want to point out too, the process of fight or flight is not a bad thing. It's actually there to keep us safe. It's a survival. And so when people process their past births with me or anything, and they go, oh, I stood still, I didn't do anything, or I spoke up and I yelled at somebody, and it's like, did you survive? Yeah. Okay, great. That worked. And I really want to reassure that their survival system is there to keep them safe and surviving. And so I acknowledge that's a good thing. Like those fight or flight is a good thing, right? And in the birthing process, it doesn't necessarily help to keep the birthing process moving. But if you're not safe and your body freezes, your survival technique is working. And so there's nothing to fix. You felt unsafe. Your body said, I'm not ready to give birth here. Doesn't feel good to me. So, what's next?
What can we do to change? So we can get back into that flow where oxytocin is flowing. And I also wanted to share with the listeners what I've been learning as a birth doula within this space is that when a woman is left undisturbed and we don't actually interfere with the process, there is this incredible amount of melatonin, right? These endorphins that are flowing through the body. There's this incredible feedback loop that's happening, this hormonal feedback loop that's happening so that her stress levels actually goes down and she's in this place of trust and she can then surrender into the experience. So having those people around you that can get you back into that space of parasympathetic and relaxation and surrender is so important.
I love Sarah Buckley for that, like understanding the hormones and why they are there and how they work. She's got a great book that has a whole chapter on hormones. And when we can, and we teach that in My Powerful Birth as well, is like, these are the hormones and these are why they're here. And they're there, like you said, as a loop to keep things going. Your contractions get stronger, and then your beta endorphins catch up, and so then they get stronger again. And your beta endorphins, which are the good feel-good hormones, like help take that pain away. And so that's why you can keep managing it, getting bigger and bigger and bigger than you. I think the other important part to touch on is birth plans are, I think they're a great way to facilitate and look at and share what it is that you want. I'm a huge advocate, and I do this with my clients, is like, what's your intention for your birth? And it's not just saying like, oh, I want to feel calm and good. It's actually going through a process of, what's the best experience that you could possibly have? Like, what's your dream birth? And what's the worst possible experience for you? Like, we all have uncommunicated fears, and we think if we communicate them, then they might come true. Or that's an irrational fear. Why would I even have that? And it's so, I think it's diminishes us when we don't get to share these parts that we're scared of. And the truth is, your birth is going to happen somewhere between this best birth experience that you've imagined and the worst. And when we explore both of those sides, one is, if the worst happens, we get to really pull in our village and help you out, because now we know this was your worst possible outcome. And then when we look at the best, it's like, okay, wow, that, like, we really made that happen, and it took something to get there. And when we set an intention about our birth, and I suggest that people pick 2 or 3 words after going through this process. And it could be fun, adventurous, calm, confidence. Like, there's so many great words that people come up with. And when we get to live the rest of our pregnancy and our birth through that, we then show up differently. And let's say your word was, well, I'll use a perfect example. And your listeners may or may not know, but my husband passed away in December of 2021. And he was diagnosed with heart cancer, which is super rare. And the thing that we had on our side was that because it was so rare, there wasn't a lot of stats or evidence to go on. Like, we knew the evidence that was there was really poor outcome. But we also knew there's not enough stats. Like, people actually really don't know what they're talking about.
Like heart cancer.
Heart cancer,
wow.
Tumor. They removed a 4-pound tumor from his heart 3 months before he died.
Wow.
So it was massive. And it grew over the time that we knew. But in the moment he was diagnosed, he thought he was having a heart attack. And he went into a coma for, I think, about a week. And I knew when he woke up that he was going to have a different experience of what happened than I was. And I created the intention of living the rest of our life with love, connection, and vitality. And because I didn't know how long he was going to live. Like, we were aiming for what's possible. It's probable that he was going to die. And what's possible is he might not. And anybody who came to be with us or supported us, we were like, this is what we're going for. Can you be on board? And if you can't, that's fine, but just tell us the truth, because then we'll go find somebody else. And I think that's how we can work with our pregnancies and our births. And, at first when I came up with these 3 words, vitality was like, okay, he's got to live at all costs. Like, vitality meant being alive, and that's it. And what I've come to discover is that's how the medical system works. Like, live at all costs. We have to do everything to save this person's life. And it doesn't matter necessarily what the quality of life is. And I think that happens with pregnancy and birth as well. And I realized, like, vitality for me really changed in definition over the year and a half that he lived. And it became a space of me going, oh, I get to feel all of this. Are we allowed to swear on here?
Hell yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Like, for me, it became like, this is fucking bullshit feelings, right? Like, the depths of my despair were present. The absolute joy of little simple things was so, I could see it every day. And it's like these huge, massive senses of polarity in my life. But it came to be like, oh my God, this is what it is to be alive. Like, this is vitality. So then now it's like, okay, I could be more daring, right? With my requests and in advocating for him. I could be more creative because like this word vitality was like helping me navigate my life. And he woke up from his coma the first time, and he was surprisingly pretty happy. I thought he was going to be really angry when he woke up. Like, what the hell is this going on?
Yeah.
And I said, I've created this. This is how we're living the rest of our lives, and he was pretty on board. We both had our own experiences to go through, but it really helped me like go, oh, okay, I want to feel love. I want to be connected to whoever's coming into my life, and I want to feel alive. And that was there for him too. So I think, when we get to be with living intentionally, birthing intentionally, my husband died. And I still can say that was like an amazing time in my life that I had got to control how I showed up in the world and who I invited into my space. And what difference would that make if every pregnant person, if every family, if every baby was born intentionally? It would be a whole different world, right? So, that's one of the things that I do with my clients. And it doesn't matter how your baby comes out. But if you feel like, okay, I calmed my nervous system because I was going to be offered the epidural or the cesarean or whatever it is, and I had connection present, all of a sudden the nervous system gets calm, right? We could say, okay, you're connected. You're connected to your baby. You're connected to everybody here. And you're being offered whatever thing you don't want to be offered. And let's just say a cesarean for this example. What are you going to choose? And when we can lower our stress response and we can get reconnected to who we are, when we go then to birth or make a decision about what's next, we can say, yeah, you know what? I am connected to my baby. And what feels right now is actually that cesarean feels really right. Or it might be like, you know what? No, like I'm super connected. I feel safe. Like nothing's wrong here. And I'm going to wait another hour. And it changes our whole nervous system, our whole way we show up, our whole way of understanding without knowing everything about all the evidence. We can just really check in with ourselves and be present and ask everybody else to be present too.
And also what I'm hearing is that when we get to make these choices that are coming from a powerful place or coming from a sovereign place, that creates this ripple effect for the rest of our life, and a ripple effect for the people that are around us. So in the birthing experience, you can be deepening your relationship with your partner or deepening your relationship with a sister or your mother that's there. When you're in the portal of birth and in death, there's opportunity for so much change and so much shifts that can happen for you and for your family, right? It's really this catalyst moment. And so making these choices that are coming from a place of empowerment, that are coming from a grounded place, is so important. I like to say that the birthing experience is really the blueprint experience for your parenthood journey. No pressure. But if you are able to come to a place of informed choice and feeling good in your choices and feeling grounded throughout the experience, that will trickle into your parenting journey, right? And so you're saying before, if we're having these conscious birth experiences, then that leads to more conscious parenting and being more mindful with the choices that we're making for our family and for ourselves, and taking responsibility for ourselves and our health and responsibility for our families. Right? It just creates more of a sovereign people. Yeah.
And like sharing that's not how people live, right? So coming to the place of where like, oh, I have to make a decision about my health or my baby or my parenting, like however I show up, it's on you, and I've heard a quote recently is like, mama's not coming to save you, like it really becomes your responsibility. And I think when we can get present to, no one's coming, it's up to me. It's a lot of pressure. It can feel like a lot of pressure. And inside of that, it's like, wow, it's up to me to create who I want to hire, where I want to birth, who I want to have in my life, who I want to have in my kids' lives. Like it really takes something to be in a place of I'm creating the life I want.
And to be clear to really sit with these decisions and give yourself the time and space.
Yeah.
Right. That's why I, of course, want to weave in this idea around rest and how we don't give ourselves enough time to rest and to integrate after really big experiences. When my brother died in 2021, I just went full bore into my business. That was my way of coping with through the grief and through the experience, was to just launch this project and get into this project and get as many clients as I possibly could to keep myself busy. And just last year I realized that was the worst thing I could have. Well, there was a lot of greatness that came out of it, but I didn't give myself the space to rest and really integrate this huge new life change. And the fact that the reality is that this person is no longer in my life. And so there's moments where I'm feeling this depression. I'm feeling, oh my gosh, the reality has really shifted here. I don't know how I'm feeling about it. And then getting down and burnt out, right? So yeah, I don't know if you can touch on that.
Yeah, for me, after Steve died, it was like the year of the great pause, I call it, because I was like, I'm going to say no to a lot of stuff. And what was really strange is like all this magic was happening around me anyways. I was still accomplishing so much, even though I was saying, no, I'm going to say no to a lot of stuff. And like everybody's experience is going to be different after a loss of a loved one, after the birth of a baby. I feel we have the word postpartum for after birth. We do not have a word for after death. We don't.
What would you call it?
I don't post death, like, post-death. But it's not my death.
Postmortem.
But it's not, it's that person's postpartum who's dead, right? Yeah. It's not. So it's such the thing is I saw so much of the same things for new parents and myself in living a life after Steve was like, oh, we need to slow down. We need to rest. We need to take care of our bodies. We need to say no. We need to allow big is like, we need to allow people to contribute to us. And it's super confronting to have people give to us and to ask for help. And that's a skill that I really want new parents to have, especially first-time parents, because first-time parents are like used to doing everything when they want, by themselves. I'm going to go to the store. They just get up and go to the store, right? And when you have kids for the first time, you're like, how come I can't do that? What happened? Like I used to just be able to get up and go take care of myself. So we think we should still be able to do that. And we can't because our body's recovering. We're learning a new human. We might be learning how to breastfeed. Like all these different things that are coming in, and how do we now live our life with this new being here? And I do think that after my experience with Steve is that birth and having a new baby is also a crisis. But we don't treat it like that. We treat it as this joyful thing, which it totally is. And there's a new learning curve, which we don't talk about, which is how do I allow my village to contribute to me? And so many times people go, where's my village? It's like, did you accept any help? Did you allow people to contribute to you? I wholeheartedly believe that people want to give. They want to make a difference for other people. And it's us that stops it. Like and my greatest example is like people saying, I'm coming over. Do you need anything? Like how you've heard that, I'm sure. Yeah. I'm like, no, I'm fine. Like that person was just trying to contribute to you and you like cut it off at the knees.
And like, meanwhile, you are spiraling.
Totally. But what might make a difference is like that caramel latte you really wanted. Yeah. Like you can ask for that. In that moment, you can ask for that.
Why is there this culture? We're in this culture where we're shutting it down.
Yeah.
Where we're not allowing ourselves to meet our needs.
Yeah.
And to be transparent with our needs, with our people that we love and trust.
Yeah.
Why is it so hard for us to be like, no, I need that caramel latte?
I'm just going to say it's probably North American society. I don't think it's like that in a lot of other cultures around the world. We nurture the mother. We surround her for 40 days. We put them in bed. Like, I mean, also part of that is like, ooh, 40 days. I don't know if I'd want to be in bed for 40 days, but there's a way to be able to incorporate both. And I think there's just so much of this world in which we're like, go, 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 get, consume, that, oh, if I can't figure this out by myself, I'll just hire somebody to do it for me, or I'll pay for some, a meal prep, or I'll buy whatever it is, instead of welcoming in the contribution that's being offered. And we can't even see it. That's the crazy thing, is we can't even see it. we'll have people over at our house and they'll, is there anything I can do before I leave? I go, no, it's fine. Like absurd, right? So absurd.
Yeah, actually the dishwasher and
The laundry.
Yeah, can you help me do a load before you go?
And I have 4 kids. My first 2 were born in the hospital and my second 2 were born at home. And it was my 4th kid that I had, and it was 19 days before I multitasked. I remember because it was like, I'm doing 2 things at once here. It was 19 days.
Wow.
Like that's pretty phenomenal with having 4 kids around. And one of the biggest things was my girlfriend came over. I think it was the day I gave birth, because I gave birth early in the morning. And she came over in the evening and she's like, can I clean your bathroom? And I was like, that's the worst possible thing that I would want to do, right? I'm like, sure, go ahead. She's like, great. And like, I allowed her. There was a sense of me allowing her to contribute and clean my bathroom because she loved cleaning bathrooms. That is not my joy at all. But she did it and I allowed her. And so that was day one. And that was like, oh, I can let people give to me, And when it came to Steve's death, it was like, there was certain things people would offer and they would say, do you need anything? And be like, oh my God, I need everything. And I have no idea what I need. And so I would tell people like, what do you have to offer? In this really curious way. Like I wasn't being demanding, but I was like, what would you want to give? And they say, oh, I can make you like pasta or I can make a lasagna. I'd be like, great, pasta works. But it narrowed down my cognitive ability to make a choice. I could not make choices after Steve died. I think that's also very prevalent with new parents. Is like the decision fatigue is astronomical. Like I couldn't even comprehend how to make one more decision. And when somebody could narrow it down to 2 choices, it made it so much easier for me. It was beautiful.
That's amazing.
It was beautiful. Yeah.
Well, I also do see you finding the joy in cleaning your bathroom because you're pulling gobs of hair out of your drain.
Oh, yeah.
I was actually going to call you because I need to learn how to do that because I'm realizing as I'm brushing my teeth that it's draining really slowly. Yeah. So I'm like, I got to call Michelle and learn how to pull the hair out of the drain. Oh my gosh.
So that's really,
we got to call your friend. I'll just call your friend.
Yeah. Well, she didn't clean my drains, but I think what you're referring to there is, since Steve died, I've had to learn a whole bunch of house care on like how to take care of my own home. And one of the things that just comes up every few months is the bathroom drain needs cleaning. I got 3 girls.
Yeah.
I resent it every time. I'm like, okay, I'm going in. Like I need the war paint, I'm like, I'm going in, I'm cleaning out that drain. And every time I'm like, so I call these bullshit moments. And they're the moments where I feel like this shouldn't be my job. Should be somebody else's, specifically Steve's, but in any time that I don't feel myself. And I'm like, it should be somebody else's. I'm going to do it. I'm going to complain about it. I'm going to resist it. And then I'll be happy I did it afterwards. And so that's just one of those moments that comes up every few months. Like, okay, Michelle, you're going in. You're cleaning out that drain.
There's a level of dopamine that we receive too, where we're like super proud of ourselves and you kick ass. And I feel like our loved ones that do go sooner than we expected are here to teach us that we are a lot stronger than we know and we're a lot more capable than what we think.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Absolutely. So you are a doula.
Yeah.
But you were mentioning to me that you're thinking about slowing that down. Because I know for a while you were only wanting to work with people that were like in total resonance, very much aligned with, you and your perspective around birth. And now you're sort of wanting to segue into just predominantly providing education versus attending births, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I've been toying with this for a while. And part of it stems from me being on my own, right? Like I don't have a partner now to support me when I'm going to be gone for 36 hours to take care of my own kids. So logistically, it's definitely more challenging to be able to figure out how am I going to get to a birth and I might be gone for 5 hours or I might be gone for 40. Like, see ya kids. I don't feel like logistically that serves my family. I do love teaching. I love seeing people's light bulb moments. I love people being like, what? Wait, Why has nobody told me this? Why don't we know this? Why? And like almost this like sense of confusion and anger and frustration and being like, no, there's got to be a different way. And I love facilitating challenging conversations, grief, all of that. And I think that's a way that I get to contribute to new families that's not necessarily being at every birth, you know? And while I love being at births, people always say, oh, it's so great. You get to cuddle with new babies. I'm like, no, I am not. Like, I love babies, but like, I'm there for the mom.
Yeah.
To witness her transition and her transformation. And, you know, whatever her partner is, like seeing a partner go from like, I don't know what I'm doing here. It's all up to her or their decision. And then standing in this place of like, oh, I'm this new parent as well. And like seeing this pride and this absolute like adoration and mysticism for who just gave birth to their baby.
Wow.
It's like, yeah, it's
my favorite part too.
Like watching the other parent
fall in love with this amazing experience and fall in love with becoming a parent, and seeing them step into their power and make these choices and be the advocate for the person who's birthing their baby. And yeah, that is my favorite part. And then seeing them hold this child that they've only been able to experience like from the exterior, right? Because the woman who's pregnant, like she's feeling the energy of this baby for 9 months, like inside and outside. But typically the partner is not really getting that same connection until they actually hold their child.
Yeah.
So that moment is like my favorite moment to capture and just see. And oh my gosh, yeah.
And like the days after.
Heart melts.
Yeah.
And isn't it true that the testosterone level of a man after, you know, his child is born lowers?
Oh,
Did you know that?
No.
Yeah. So that it lowers so that they can soften and be in more of this like feminine energy to take care. Yeah.
That totally makes sense. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I just love witnessing the other parent transition too.
Yeah. That's so cool.
Yeah. So we, you know, people go, oh, you're a doula and all the baby cuddles. I'm like, oh, there's a baby? That's why we're doing this? I forgot.
Yeah.
Not to dismiss it, like they're obviously a part of the experience, but it's like, I really want to see this transition and this exploration of these parents on like what they're stepping into. That's like where I get lit up.
Them really finding themselves.
Yeah. And processing and being with kind of the confusion of like, what does this mean? And also seeing people going from, I don't know any, like I typically get this is our first time doing it. We don't know anything. It's like, first of all, don't diminish yourself. You actually know lots. And right now you know more about your baby than anybody else does. Going from that to being like, oh, wow, like this is what we did. Or this is what happened. This is how we got closer together. This is the arguments we got in. This is where we saw our values align. Like all of that is just such a beautiful place to be with someone in. And what a privilege it is to help facilitate those conversations that really make a difference for families as they go into what's next. It's like, I'll brag a little bit, but I'm like, I'm really good at like pulling out what's not being said. Mm-hmm. Like I can read between the lines and see like, what is it that you're not saying? And here's something to consider. And have you thought about this? And people are like, oh, wow. You know, and they get to see themselves in a new light in my presence because I'm really skilled at pulling that information out for people.
And there is this like radicalness that is an amazing and important ingredient within a doula to be an advocate and to help people dig into the parts of themselves that they are trying to ignore. Mm-hmm. And conversations that I love to have in the antenatal period with families are around death and like your understanding of death, your relationship with death. What does it feel like, you know, for you when you tune into the idea of your baby not making it through this experience or your partner not making it through this experience, and just talk about it, get it all out on the table so that there's no emotions that are hiding in the subconscious mind, and those are kind of wavering in the subconscious mind when we're in the portal. We just hash it all out.
Yeah.
Don't beat around the bush. And have these hard conversations. Michelle, I also wanted to touch on, your article that you have on your website and how that was released in 2019. And at that time, the cesarean rate in British Columbia was roughly 43%. Is that correct? I would imagine that rate has gone up.
I actually haven't looked at the Perinatal Services BC website recently, so I don't know how much and by and when the most recent numbers are out. I started that project because I heard someone tell me a story. She was a doula, and she said in the morning she was at a hospital and she heard one of the care providers or the nurses say, "We have seven people birthing today. Like we have 7 people in the process." And at the end of the night, she heard a doctor say, "Oh, we've done 7 cesareans today." And I was like, "What? Does that mean that there was 100% cesarean rate in one day?" Like that just was like so confusing to me. And so I started the process of, through the Freedom of Information Act, of asking for rates by day per hospital over, I think it was a 6-month period. So it wasn't it's not a huge population, but it did give me an idea of like what was going on. And, we would think certain hospitals would have had lower rates than others. Maybe BC Women's would have a higher rate because they're a hospital where a lot of people come to from around the province. And that wasn't necessarily true. But the rates, and I haven't looked at the website for a bit, but the rates varied. And the other thing it didn't look at is who's getting them, why, and, is this their first or second or third baby? Like, it just was like across the board, this month, this many people had cesareans. Because
a lot of them could be elective cesareans, right? Yeah. So they're choosing to go in and have the cesarean section done.
And, sometimes when birth workers or people talk about cesareans, it's not, we're automatically kind of classified as you're anti-cesarean. It's like, no, this is a really great surgery that can save lots of people's lives and is totally needed. Like, it's a tool that's there for when we need it. And inside of that, there's, across Canada, we have a certain cesarean rate. Across British Columbia, it's higher. Across Fraser Health, it's even higher. So in Fraser Health, we don't have a different population of people giving birth than the rest of the country, that all of a sudden we're just incapable. 43% of us are incapable. That's not true. And so what is the management of these facilities and these health authorities doing that's increasing the rate of cesarean? And I don't know the answer to that. It could be staffing. It could be promotion of the surgery. It could be lack of space. Like, there's so many reasons why somebody could have a cesarean that has nothing to do with the person's body or their baby. And, if we don't know that number, 43% chances of you having a cesarean is 43%. And if you do know that number, then you're like, oh, what am I doing that aligns with me having a 43% chance of cesarean rate? And what am I not doing that would help me be the other 57%? Right. Yeah. So it has people look at like, oh, there's things that I could or could not be doing that would impact my chances of having a cesarean.
And a lot of people do believe that just by hiring a doula, they're protected from that 43%. Yeah. Right. And there's misconception there within society. Yeah. And I've learned that over time, because there's been moments where I'm working with clients in the birth space and the cesarean card is dropped, and I feel myself shrink a little bit, because I'm just like thinking, we've gone all this way, and it's been very clear from day one since we got here in the birth plan that we wrote out and we printed 1 million times and put on the door that, this is what we're wanting, undisturbed, leave us alone. The cesarean card still gets dropped, and then the parents immediately look at me for support. I'm like, you knew this walking into this space, that this is their MO. And if anything, the reference range goes out off the charts, then they're going to consider major abdominal surgery, right? And so the only thing I can do in that moment is suggest more space, suggest more time. Please leave us alone.
So it's such a heated topic, and there's so many.
I want to just drop this because there was one time where an obstetrician, so we were in the process, babies was crowning, she had an epidural, and so she couldn't necessarily feel the sensations. The expulsion reflex wasn't as strong. And also the baby's ability to push from on the top, like a piston on the top of the fundus, they kind of bound like off a board, the fundus to come down, right? Their ability to do that isn't as strong and effective when they're under the influence of an epidural, right? So it's taking a little bit longer for this baby to move out of this woman's body. And I was supporting the woman in her breath and suggesting a certain breath wave pattern that could help her bring more awareness into her perineum and bring more awareness into the baby as well, so that they can get themselves out. And the obstetrician just looked at me and was like, this isn't working. This baby needs to come out faster. I don't think you know your role here. I'm the one in charge. You need to step away and know your role.
Yeah.
Just like, okay, sure. Okay.
Yeah.
At that point you have to, I had to surrender, because like, I've been kicked off the wards or whatever, but it's just not worth the drama. And at the end of the day, it's this family's responsibility and their choice to be there, right? I can advocate as much as I can, but at that point we've come this far and they're telling me to F off. It's just so frustrating. That's part of the reason why I stepped away from, choosing to support families that are wanting to birth in the hospital. Is it's just like, it's such a hard fight. It's such a hard battle.
Well, because you can see, there's just so much there. Like, you can see how you got there, and that no fault to that family at all, right? And I think what's there, like, this is the part, and I know you wanted to touch on like the emotional work of being a doula. One, I can't remember who said it to me, but we are not there to protect you from your own choices. And as doulas, that's really hard to be with sometimes, because we're sitting there going, I can see what's possible for this family. Like, I know what they can do. I know who they are. They're strong, and they're making choices that don't align with what they say they want.
Yeah.
And there's this dance in the conversation where we could point out gently, hey, you're making decisions that don't necessarily align with what you say you want. And I just want to be curious about that, or point that out, or, not as a blame, but as a exploration, what's there for you. And, speaking of doulas, there's so many different types that are so skilled at so many different things. And I think you're in the realm kind of for myself, where I'm willing to go have those conversations. And there's a lot of doulas who are really good at being hired and going to the hospital and rubbing your back. They're not into those conversations that are going to even bring up what's there. And that's fine. There's all different types of doulas. There's all different types of people who need different types of doulas as well. And every doula does make a difference. But I think where the heartbreak comes for us is that we know what's possible, and there's a surrendering for us. And that's not our journey. This is not our birth. This is not our family. And surrendering where we could or could not have made a difference. And I think inside of that is being intentional, setting an intention again when you go into a birth space. What is it that you're committed to for this family? If you find that you're I really want them to have a natural birth, well, then you're not really being authentic.
Well, that's the thing, is because then this doula then has an agenda for that family.
Yeah.
Right. And the moment that you have an agenda for anyone in their experience, you're out of your integrity.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's not fair to the families. So there's moments where in this work, it's a huge test of surrender, non-attachment, just walk away. And so I guess I can be grateful and say thank you to that obstetrician for giving me permission to step out of that space and remove myself because I was starting to get fired up.
Yeah, like it's hard.
Like internally, I'm like, you chose a fucking epidural. Like, I don't know, like how should you, right? And so this is what happens, right? Yeah. And we know that, and we learned that. We talked about it. We talked about the standard operating procedure within the hospital space. We talked about all these interventions, right? So, and now we're in this position, and you made that choice. So I'm just here to hold the space.
To facilitate it, yeah.
Yeah, no, obstetrician's like, you can leave now. Thank you. Okay.
And you're like, oh, actually, I needed to be called out for that one. Yeah. Thanks, OB.
Yeah.
I think as well is like, there's so many different places that we can come from as doulas. And it's hard not to be invested with the family. Because I mean, I really do fall in love with a lot of my families.
Oh, some of them are my really close friends.
Yeah, they've become friends. Yeah. And I think what is also great is we have this level of separation where we're not emotionally invested in these people like their partner is, their mother is, or their sister is, right? And so we get to have conversations on a different level that we get to work almost like one step away from the emotional investment that people have had with the people in their lives, right? And so our conversations can be a lot different, and we can be a little bit more clear and straight with people. And, you know, I think of when we get our period, when we give birth, you know, when some of us are going to go through menopause, it's like, this is our own portal. And it's, oh, what's the word I'm looking for? It's like, not legacy, but we're going to go through this journey as we're meant to go through this journey. And so whether that's we planned a cesarean and we had an unexpected home birth, like that's a journey, right? That you didn't plan or expect. Or if we planned a home birth and we had a cesarean, like this is part of the journey that we're going through. That's ours to figure out and to process and there's some people who are like, oh, that's just what happened. And they don't even think about it again, where there's other people probably like myself who's like, what impacted that? How did I get there? Right. You know, really like looking at where was I being responsible? If I'm to sit in this place of I'm 100% responsible, like that's a powerful place to sit.
Wow.
If if you're as a doula, I'm 100% responsible for how this birth went down. Can you imagine? Like not as in like, it's my fault, but as in, is there something that I didn't say or I didn't do, or I allowed this family to hire me when I knew they weren't my client? That's wow.
Isn't that the perspective of the care providers though? Like medical care professionals, because they are thinking of litigation throughout the entire experience.
Yeah. I'm not talking about litigation. Okay. I'm not talking about legal at all. I'm talking about
moral responsibility.
Not even moral. When you can live your life coming from, I'm 100% responsible for how my life goes, you show up totally different. And it's not about the emotions or making people wrong or bad for what's happened. It's like, what am I learning here? And if I was 100% responsible, what actions would I take differently? Because then it's like all on me, you know, kind of what I was talking about earlier, but not as in like, oh, I have so much responsibility. Life is so heavy. Why have I got to do this part? This part of you is like, part of me wants to go there a lot, by the way. Like, frick, like why I got to do this thing? Why I got to clean out the drain again, you know? But like, I'm 100% responsible. I'm 100% responsible for how my life goes as a widow. I'm 100% responsible for my 4 kids. I'm 100% like, and not that I get weighed down by that. But if more people took that perspective in life or how their birth went or who they were as a doula or a nurse or a doctor, then the world would be a totally different place.
I would say it's their legacy. That's very much their legacy, to be responsible for yourself.
Yeah.
That's your legacy.
But not responsible as in, I've got to prevent legalities.
Right.
Responsible as in, I'm a human here on this earth at this time. What's it going to take for me to be authentic and integrity with me? That's totally different. Because when we don't live there, we get to just be like, oh, well, it was the doctor's fault. Oh, well, that family made the decisions they were going to make. And we get to like brush it off,
Blame
right?
game, the blame
It's
game.
blaming. Yeah, totally. And as a parent, right? Like you were saying earlier when you opened up this episode was families standing in being responsible for their decisions. And there is a level right now when we go to the hospital that we have it that the care providers are there to make the decisions for us. That's a cop-out in a way, because one, it's not fair to the care provider, right? Doctor, nurse, to understand and know what it is exactly what you want. And if we get to, and then if something goes wrong, guess what? We get to blame somebody else instead of being like, actually, I made that choice. I hired that person. I decided this. It's not making you wrong. It's not to set you up for depression. It's more like, okay, actually, yeah, if I were to do that again, these are the choices I would make differently. No heaviness or emotion involved, just what worked and what didn't work. And that's what I mean when I say 100% responsible.
I love it.
Yeah.
Leading this life with honesty, being transparent, and having good intent, setting good intentions that are in alignment with what we feel is best, and knowing that our perspectives can shift and they're allowed to shift, and they should shift. If we're evolving and growing as humans, then our perspectives should be shifting. And I do work with families where they're having their second or third or fourth babies even, and every time it's new.
Yeah.
Every time there's a new plan, there's more to consider, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot more factors involved within the experience, but they're always wanting something a little bit different.
Yeah.
And I am attracting more families that are wanting this physiological home birth experience. And so we go into the ideas of surrender and trust. You can have a plan here. We'll set it all up. Sure. I'll make sure the hose fits the faucet and all that good stuff. But at the end of the day, this child has its own will and its own journey that we're going to hold the space for, and you have your own journey that we're going to hold the space for, and the two of you together are just dancing, right? And we're in this space where we can give you the space to dance and be in this safe container. Yeah, it's funny, like I do talk a lot about the dream birth experience. I even have this dream birth workbook that anybody can get access to. They can download it. And I'm going to be launching the Dream Birth online program, which is an amazing 6-week program. So people can tune into the birth that it is they're wanting to manifest. Okay, great. You see the experience, you have the vision, and now just let it go.
Yeah.
Because there actually is no dream birth experience. It just is what it is, and what it needs to be for you to evolve as a mother, as a parent, right? And it needs to be what this child is requiring so that they can fulfill their whatever contract they have here on earth. So
I love that you say it is what it is. And I would also add, it's not what it's not.
I love this. My mom's gonna love this because my mom, she always says it is what it is. That's like her number one thing. She's been getting tattoos recently, and I feel like that's gonna be her next tattoo. It is what it is, and she's gonna love this, what you just said.
And you're just gonna put it's not what it's not.
It's not what it's not.
It's not what it's not. Yeah. It's so good. I mean, there's so many things, so many places we could go with this conversation because it's like the expansion of who you are as a new parent is going to be different no matter what you plan, how many kids you've got. Like, it's like you're seeing a new version of yourself again. And I think with any life, I'm throwing like lots of good, life bombs out here today. But it's like, who do you want to meet on the other side? And this has been a life lesson of mine is like, what version of myself do I want to meet on the other side of this? And there's a choice that I get to make. And sometimes the choice is like, this version of me would mean that I didn't say what I needed to say. I gave up. I just predicted, like I acted like I knew how the future was going to unfold. What's the point of trying? They're going to say no anyways, like whatever it is. Or there's this version of me who's like, I'm going to go have that scary conversation. I'm going to try to ask for what it is that I want. I'm going to be proud of myself because I know that I exceeded or I used up all the possible routes that I knew to take. And it's not fun. Like, I don't necessarily be like, great, I'm going to go meet a new version of myself after
So
this.
scary.
It is scary, but I know who I want to meet on the other side, and it's that person. And I think this is a really beautiful time to be able to say for new families is like, what version of myself do I want to know on the other side of giving birth or growing a baby or living postpartum? Like, what version of myself do I want to meet?
Wow.
Yeah.
So it's not just about trying to manifest this incredible experience, it's manifesting what is going to come on the other side of that chrysalis.
Yeah.
And that's part of the reason why I have this awesome logo that's been with me since the beginning. And shout out to Sarah Harley for creating this one. Yeah, with cactus blue. But yeah, you're shedding so many layers within the cocoon of birth, and within the portal, it's like we were talking about earlier, there being this catalyst for both parents and for the whole family, for that child. Yeah, I had a thought, but it's gone. So I don't know. Oh, it was just around that is part of the reason why I dove into launching my business and launching 1 million projects after the death of my brother. And that was because I could hear Caden in my head just saying, Maddie, like, fuck it. Like, you want to do these things, do it. Because, hey, now you know. You might not be here tomorrow.
Yeah.
So that was really so much of the inspiration for me to launch Ode To Birth and go full bore and expend so much energy and put all my love into it, because I could just hear him every day being like, don't fucking stop. Like, keep going. You know, we're not here to just pussyfoot around. Like, yeah, this podcast, we're swearing a lot because it's reality.
I feel like I can sense that same, like, listening to messages from the other side. And I love that he was like, just go for it. Like, you got nothing to lose.
Just do it. And he was so successful with where he was going. And it's such a shame, you know, like, he was really killing it as a stainless steel fabricator. He had his shop. He was living life in 100 Mile House. He had his property, tons of friends, just everybody loved this guy, right? And his business was really successful, and we were so proud of him because he finally landed this job where he could be creative, he could work his butt off and do really well and be rewarded. So it's too bad.
Yeah.
But a part of him is now instilled within me.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't feeling that much inspiration until he passed away. So yeah, thank you. Thank you, Caden.
Yeah, absolutely.
Love you.
I commend him for that. And like, actually super touched by it, because I feel this, I'm not the same person as all who I was before Steve died. Within the first 4 days, I knew I'm a different human being and I got to show up differently here. And, you know, what I wouldn't give to like go back. But at the same time, I'm like, I'm not the same person. I am not the same woman. And like, I am so much more capable of taking on like life than I was when Steve was here. And it's not to blame, like, it wasn't his fault, you know, that I wasn't that person. But inside of that experience, it's like, fuck, I'm a badass, you know? And like, I can really take on a lot of things.
And people want to learn from you. What I see within you is you're so magnetic. Yeah, you've got tons of wisdom bombs, lots of truth that's here to be shared with the world. And I feel attracted to you because you have a soft feminine nature to you that makes me feel safe. But then also when you're speaking your truth, it's super hard up and like badass. So that's like a really beautiful balance. Yeah. And that just comes with time and experience and being the mom of 4 children and
surrendering a lot, letting go. Like, just when I think I know how it's going to go, it's like, okay, not quite, Michelle.
And how about this concept of resiliency?
Yeah, I don't know if I'm necessarily resilient. You know, I think I really love language and how words are used. And, you know, sometimes people say, oh, I don't have a choice. I got 4 kids. Like, there's one saying right now on the internet, like, I got to get up because I don't have a choice. You do, actually. And when we say we don't have a choice, but we get up every day and we take care of our kids, our home. We do all of this and also be loving and connected. It's like when you say you don't have a choice, you're actually diminishing what it takes to be that person. Because yeah, you do have a choice. You could lay in bed all day. You could cry. You could eat bonbons, and not get up and do it, but you're choosing to. And when we do that, it becomes then like, actually, no, I am choosing to do this. And then I get to acknowledge who I am, or the other person, like, actually, it is a choice. And you're choosing not to do the other things. You're choosing to show up. And I think it's super commendable for whoever's going through whatever they need to be resilient. I think it takes something, and I'm not actually sure of the whole definition of the word resilience, but there's, things that show up in people's lives, and some people do what it takes to live their truth and other people don't. And it's all survival, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And the reason why I brought it up was just around because I've been hearing a lot of people say, and particularly mothers, oh, I know I'm doing a great job. I'm really killing it, but I'm tired of being resilient.
Yeah.
I'm tired of having to be in my power and I'm tired. Like, I just need a freaking nap. I need to relax here for a minute, or let this thing really take me out and be in the authenticity of something being really hard and it feeling really raw and it feeling really vulnerable. And you were talking about really establishing our village beforehand so that we have people to lean on and say, no, today I'm not resilient. I am a ball of anxiety. My cupboards need to be organized and I don't have the bandwidth for that.
Yeah.
Right? Can you do that for me? And then maybe tomorrow I'll be more resilient.
Yeah, it's both. I love how you said, or you just actually do crumble and you fall into it. And that's totally valid to do that. And I highly encourage it, actually, because if we keep resisting it and keep pushing on, then it's going to become harder. Right. But when we go into the crumbling, I think that's actually a really great thing to do. I'm going to take the next day and I'm going to crumble.
Just going to crumble.
Yeah.
And have this ego death moment too.
Yeah.
Where we're releasing what we think we know about ourselves and then rediscovering a new energy or a new way of being or a new way of leading our life.
Yeah.
And that doesn't come unless if we crumble and fall apart.
Yeah. I regularly crumble and it doesn't always come up when I want it scheduled. I'd rather if it was predictable and I could just do it when I know it's coming. But no, sometimes it's like the middle of the day at 3:00 at school pickup, or, when I'm getting my car fixed and somebody says something, I'm like, oh, here we go again.
I'm crumbling.
Yeah, I'm crumbling. Just hold me.
That's going to be the title of this episode is I'm crumbling.
Good.
How to crumble with grace.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know if there's grace. You just got to do it.
No, it's true.
It's probably graceful in itself. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I love how you said my cupboards need organizing. Great. Have a day where you call all over your people and you're like, Friday, 12:00 to 3:00, I'm cleaning out my kitchen. Who's coming and helping me? I'm telling you, people will show up.
And they'll bring wine.
Yeah, whatever. Or the cleaning supplies, or they'll stay for an hour. Some people will stay for all 3. Just allow people to show up how they need to show up for you, and your kitchen will be organized. And I hope someone goes and does that today. Goes and listens to this episode and is like, I'm going to have someone clean out my kitchen for me.
Yes, please do.
What else do you need doing? Does your yard need cleaning? Does your car need cleaning? Do you need laundry being done? Do you need to have
delegate?
Yeah, delegate, and being okay to delegate around your house.
I remember growing up, my grandmother played a huge role, and she was always around supporting my parents and cleaning the house and without judgment. There was no sense of oh, this is disgusting. How can you live like this? It's more of just I see you. This is so normal. And I often get that too when I walk into someone's home. There's this insecurity. You can feel it from them right away. They're like, I'm so sorry. This is not how we normally want it. And hopefully by the time the baby's coming, the house is way more clean. And I'm just honestly, don't worry about it.
Yeah.
I'm full acceptance. I see you as you are, who you are, how you live. I want to know, so show me all of you. And even if the house is a mess, I love it. It makes me feel more human because, my bed is currently not made either, and it's fine. Like, don't worry about it.
I get worried about new parents when their house is clean. Seriously, like I did it myself. Like after the birth of my first, I was just like, oh, I got my hair's got to be done, my makeup's got to be done, my house has got to be clean. I was totally suffering emotionally, and so when I go over to people's house and it's clean, I'm like, oh, what's going on here?
Right.
There's something to like investigate and look at. Like something's not okay here. So if I show up and you have a 4-day-old baby and your house is clean, and I know you don't have a cleaner, something's going on. And I look more into that.
Because a lot of people, when they're trying to clean up the chaos in their mind, that's a reflection of their environment, right? So when I don't know about that, because if their house is a mess, is that showing us that their mind is a mess? But anyways, when they're trying to reduce anxiety or reduce these feelings of chaos in their mind, they'll clean. Yeah. And cleaning is a form of therapy for sure. But I hear you. If it's a completely immaculate, spick and span. Yeah.
I'm more worried about like, when have you stopped? Like when we talked about rest. Where are you resting and taking care of yourself? And maybe it's just a sign that you're overcompensating for something, or that you feel like you're full of anxiety. It could be a lot of different things, but it's like, what's happening? That associated with how much are you bleeding postpartum? You're doing too much. Yeah. And it's just like, okay, now how do we incorporate rest? How do we make this a structure? How do we like really get you to a place where you're emotionally okay to sit on your butt for a day?
And integrate.
Yeah, integrate it. Yeah.
Integrate the whole experience and talk about it. Like sometimes when I go to visit a family postpartum, we spend 3 hours in conversation, just debriefing, breathing, crying, going over the experience. And sometimes that actually doesn't happen for a few months later because you're still in the thick of it. You're still in that fog a few days postpartum, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So is there anything else you're feeling like it's on your heart and you want to share with people?
Oh, we just could talk forever.
You're like, coming back.
I'll definitely come back. I feel like you could say any word and I'll have a story about it, And so I think, I would love to come back, and I think there's lots to share and lots to learn. And I'm really looking forward to hearing more of these episodes and, what wisdom comes out of it, and what a difference it'll make for, your listeners. And
it's also just the intention is to help shift perspective, and to offer a little bit more insight for people to feel more empowered, for people to feel more sovereign through their choices, whether it's birthing or being in a relationship or being in a relationship with themselves and meeting their mental health. And so birth, like I said, is so much a blueprint for us and humanity. And this platform is a safe space. I hope it's a fun space. I hope you had fun today, Michelle. I always love chatting with you. And maybe one day, you can be our co-host because I just love you so much.
I'd love to show up here more often. That's for sure. This has been really great. And I also am excited to hear what people just get from this, being, whether they're driving in their car or making dinner or whatever it is, that they are listening and learning something new for themselves. Yeah.
Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you.
Love you.
I love you too. This is amazing. Thanks for all the work that you do. It's great.
Got it.